Barry Lewis. Dear colleagues, on behalf of the United Nations system and team here in Armenia, it's a great honor to join all of you, Mr. Ombudsperson, Ms. Ambassador Andrea, Michaela, dear colleagues, but all of you in the room here today, the governments and parliaments, ministers, international community, from the UN system, from the embassies, and all of those of you who are working in this space, the stakeholders, law enforcement officers, judges, and legal persons, civil society representatives. I think this is an incredibly important topic and opportunity, and I think the fact that everybody has made it through the snow here on a very cold morning really speaks to that. I would wish to say that it's always a pleasure, of course, for us to be working in partnership with our EU partners and with the ombudsperson, the HRDO. I'm reminded of the fantastic anniversary that you had just towards the end of last year as well, and so many important achievements and accomplishments. In this particular case, the UN Convention against torture is unique in many ways and brought into the fore here, as it is the only exclusive international treaty, the first instrument entrusting national bodies, namely the national preventive mechanisms, with a key role in implementing this international treaty. And as has been mentioned, owing to the specific role of the preventive mechanism, regular visits to detention, places of detention at national and local levels, day-to-day contacts with authorities, intimate knowledge of the context. National preventive mechanisms have really an important role, a central role to play in helping to prevent torture and complementing the work of national and international bodies. But of course, to do so, NPMs need to be fully equipped, both with strong legislative mandate and also the necessary human and financial resources. And I think that's very much what we are recognizing here today. And of course, I'm pleased to say that the HRDO here in Armenia has demonstrated not only high professional levels and capacities as witnessed in the high-level accreditation, but also an appetite for innovation. And together with our partners, we're very pleased to help bring this together. Has been mentioned, our activities in this role, the UN family, we have 3 different UN agencies coming together in a joint program, UNDP, UNFPA, and UNICEF. This is all made possible through, we are helping to implement the EU budget support on human rights, as has been mentioned, and we're very privileged and honored to be able to do that. I will not go into the details because I know my colleague Michaela will do that, but just again to reiterate, both the alignment between the European Convention on Human Rights and the Universal Declaration on Human Rights, and how these 2 instruments, which came into being just a few years apart, really are so complementary. And as well, I would just wish to note the link between human rights, fundamental freedoms, and sustainable development, and the achievement, more broadly speaking, of Armenia's long-term aspirations that we see so closely aligned. And I wish to also recognize, to reiterate, as the Ambassador has mentioned, that we see really significant progress here in the field of human rights, and we're very, very much encouraged and see this movement forward. And of course, definitely there still remains a lot to be done together, and that is exactly why we are here. So, colleagues, I'll just conclude with a short quote, if I get it right. I think it was Nelson Mandela who once said, "You don't know anything about a country until you've seen the insides of their prisons." And I think this is ultimately the spirit of what we are speaking about here today. Human rights extends, and fundamental dignity extends to every single person in a society, even or especially those within prison or deprived of liberty. So, but this, of course, that end result requires the collective action of so many different people and institutions. Of course, it's the police, but not just, and of course, it's the ministries, not just. It's the again, the investigators, it's the parliament, it's civil society, it's all of the different actors that are playing a role, and we very much appreciate the strong engagement of all of you here today, but in the longer process, of course. So let me just recommit on behalf of the UN family that we stand very much behind working with our partners, with you and with others, very much behind you, Armenian society and Armenian governments in making sure that this very noble undertaking is fulfilled to the greatest possible extent. Thank you very much. Շնորհակալություն.